Hello, good evening. Congratulations for coming here. This is going to be a very, very thrilling panel. And I'm going to introduce the rest of the guests. We have Michael Gu from Boxmining. Oh, you're filming yourself. That's smart. Then we've got Vays. Hello. Jeremie Davinci. Marlene Ronstedt. And finally, Christopher Jaszczynski. Marlene? Who else is missing?
Carl from the moon. He's joining us also.
Sorry, who?
Carl from the moon.
Carl from the moon. Oh. Okay, so I was just informed that Carl is coming from the moon. Oh great, it's him. Is Marlene not joining us? Okay. She was supposed to join us, but maybe she'll come later. I'm going to explain why is it going to be. Can everybody hear me? Yeah? Okay. I'm going to explain why is this panel going to be so exciting. Because of its genesis. So last year, it happened so that all the influencers decided to do something individual outside of the conference, and they created their own panel, as Ton was explaining me today, in a helicopter.
Boxmining was out there,
Yeah, exactly. Those guys decided to do their own thing. So basically, it came out organically. And so I'm very happy that today I can contribute and only take it further and make it even more exciting. So firstly, I'm going to introduce our panelists. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Can I get
Oh, let's get the microphone.
I think you forgot someone.
Oh, God! Here we've got one more. Jesus. Yes. And we've got Miguel, Francis-Santiago. One more person. We need one more chair. This panel is growing. Anybody else?
On Boxminer's lap, I'm all for it.
Come on, Miguel. Okay. We got a chair. Anybody else wants to be on the panel? We're done, right? Okay, cool. Carl, why don't you introduce yourself?
All right. So, for those who don't know me, I have a YouTube channel called The Moon, and I make daily videos. So actually, one video every single day, and I've been doing that for 1.5 years, maybe even 1.5, at least 1 year. And so I'm almost only talk about Bitcoin, and occasionally some altcoin news also, but 99% about Bitcoin and the 24 hours news and price action in Bitcoin.
Fantastic. So now I actually do know all the other panelists, so I'm going to tell you who they are. So Miguel is co-founder and CEO of The Future Is Now, is a film platform. Chris is you're a co-founder of Crypto. He's also a blogger. Then we've got Jeremie, CEO of Davinci Code Spa. Also has got a very successful YouTube channel. And then I think there's something interesting about him. I think you almost you could be Satoshi. Like he's going to tell you about it. I mean, it's going to come out later. Okay.
He's saying he's not. No,
Yeah, it's
weird names on YouTube. Who would have guessed that would have taken off?
Ton, everybody knows Ton. He's a ex Wall Street trader, and everybody knows his YouTube channel too. And everybody knows Michael Gu Boxmining YouTube channel. Nobody knows that he loves steak. That's what he told me.
You love steak?
Yeah. And with Naeem, Naeem is a journalist for Forbes, and I had the pleasure to work with him while doing reportages for Reuters because he's a great market analyst. And I don't have any spicy details about him yet. Let's see at the end of the cruise. And myself, I'm Ania Poullain-Majchrzak. I'm a Reuters journalist, and I'm also working on a documentary about blockchain, which is called The Geeks Shall Inherit the Earth. You can see the trailer online. Right. So what? Sorry?
You feel the ship.
Do I feel the ship? Yes, I do feel the ship. So we all realize we're part of this revolution, but one of very exciting things about this space is the media coverage. And it's, from my perspective, and perhaps you will agree with me, when it comes to mainstream media, it's really difficult because, for example, for me working in Reuters, my editors are very conservative, and it's very difficult to bring subjects which bring lots of disruption. And then we've got all the new media, we've got YouTubers, bloggers, influencers, and they are extremely successful and people are listening to them. But then, like, for people from our sector, it seems like, well, how are these guys legitimate? It's fascinating. So I want to start discussion, perhaps, Naeem, how do you feel being a specialist, being a journalist in the space where it's basically the new is fighting the old, it feels like? Maybe we can swap.
So I wouldn't call myself specialist because I do cover traditional and digital assets. The reason that I've started to cover digital assets is because I'm pursuing a PhD in something which is called digital assets, or tokenization of assets. It's about creating. Can everyone hear us?
Microphone up. Use the microphone up.
Can I use your-
Like right in front, like this way.
I think there's something wrong with my.
No, do it this way.
Put it like this.
Okay, is that any? Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so as I was saying that I don't think I will classify myself as a specialist because I write about traditional and digital assets. The reason that I'm writing about the digital assets since 2016 is because when I left Bank of New York Mellon in 2014 as a hedge fund trader, it was like, okay, this is a new derivative and which has a huge impact on the market. And in 2016, it changed into digital assets. This is where, because I joined Forbes to cover traditional assets, but then they said, okay, start writing about the digital assets. And I think this year, with the bigger conferences such as Consensus, what we saw, the most important thing out of the Consensus was that there was less of a nonsense and there was more, we saw more enterprises. So basically more suits, more serious people coming into the market from the enterprise perspective. And that really makes the case easy for us that, okay, look, these guys are not someone who's just sitting, I don't know, like in hot tubs or whatever, but they are actual business owners and they are actual companies who are really geared to do something. And that this really makes the case that how you're going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Now, I would like all of other influencers to explain how they approach their coverage of blockchain space, and how do you make all your audiences trust in what you're saying. Maybe start with Miguel. Miguel has got this film platform. So it's not necessarily a
it's a decentralized community-driven film. Actually started in the blockchain space on mainstream, alternative media, RT. And we started with a show called Cryptolium. It took me around the world and I was exposed to the space as somebody coming from political journalism before, but always being in the startup space, with side projects, working for Groupon Russia, when Groupon was just entering Russia back in like 2011. So with the coming of crypto in 2017, like this space, it was like the digital innovation of tomorrow. These futurists, right, innovators that could perhaps do things to better the world. As cheesy as it sounds, it's like, I have a kid growing up. I covered war. I covered conflicts before this. And as I started covering this space, looking at this approach of this, there's the crypto anarchists, these, Burning Man type of culture, right? The culture behind it. Then there's the traditionals that are coming into suits, as we just, Naeem just mentioned, with Consensus and all that. It was an interesting mixture of this, as you said in the beginning, of the new cleansing the old, if you will. So it was a great new space that is being created visually. So me as coming from the cinematic film school, UCLA film school graduate, coming from the world of cinema, I thought, why don't we mix these cinematic emotions, this new wave of digital innovation with this space, and it came out interesting. But how do we? Your initial question was how do we spotlight? How do we bet or whatever?
Yeah.
Well,
but maybe I was wondering because like you kind of new to the space, and we've got some kind of veterans here. So I would like to ask them how did it happen that you ended up doing what you're doing?
I'm almost 2 years in the space though.
Oh yeah, but he's 8.
8, right?
So Michael.
So I'll just tell a little bit about my channel. So it's Boxmining. With mining the name, where did it come from? It started all the way in 2012. So back in 2012, I was a little geek in my room. I had a few computers that were gaming grade, and I saw, how can I make money with that PC? So I started mining Bitcoin, right? And along with playing other games and stuff, I started mining Bitcoin, and I thought, oh, this is like this weird digital money. It was worth $10 at its time. Kind of like a joke now, if you think of the craziness of Bitcoin and the fact that you can actually mine Bitcoin with your computer. At that time, it was 0.3 Bitcoin a day. And at that time, it sounds like a lot, right? But at that time, it's only $3. And pretty much, someone said it was equivalent to picking up money from cans. You can probably make more money than mining Bitcoin. But I did it anyways because I thought it was cool. It's very interesting. And I made a lot of
It's always the best investment to make money in any other way but mining and putting it into Bitcoin. So I'm not surprised that at the time, picking up cans on the street and putting it into Bitcoin would have made more money than mining.
That's correct. So yeah, mining. But it was very cool to just see that this whole thing worked. The things that I didn't know at that time was why is Bitcoin valuable. So back in 2012, as kind of like a nerd, I thought, okay, this is just fun internet money, right? I didn't realize how it's not confiscatable. Tone is very strong on the fact that you can't confiscate it. It's a global movement of value. All these things I didn't know. So what I did was I started a YouTube channel kind of a little bit later in 2017, 2016 times. And it was just about discussing, just sharing. And something that's very cool about YouTube that I didn't realize at that time was how much feedback you get. So right now you can do a live stream and immediately hundreds of people will watch you, right? That's kind of how crazy it is. And they can immediately give you feedback. What are they concerned about, right? What are you doing right? What are you doing wrong? And that was kind of very cool about YouTube. And I think Tony do that all the time. Do a lot of live streams.
Yeah, but my live stream comments only talk about what I'm doing wrong. Nobody talks about and it's like thousands of them, right? Like why? I know. Why are you all watching?
Yeah, they keep watching.
Yeah, there's a strong fascination.
I've never seen so many people hate a YouTube channel but consistently watch it.
So are you saying you've got only haters on your YouTube channel?
No,
How did you gain your
it's always the most
legitimacy?
vocal ones.
Tone, stop saying that it's going to go down to 1,000. Stop already.
But that's because Tone's a bear, right? Because when you say Bitcoin price is going down, people are naturally angry.
We hate you.
But Tone has so many protectors, because I mispronounced your name once. I think I said you're Tony. And then everyone just started hating me. They're like, Boxmining, you're an idiot. You called him Tony, what the hell? You're an idiot, man. So, you build a community and you get to directly interact with people. I think that's the most special part about this new age that we're at, where you can have that interaction. And never was I really trying to influence the people. I think that's the wrong word for me to use anyway.
You don't like being called influencer?
That's a really good point. I mentioned that in the helicopter, actually, that I don't like the term influencer. Because calling me an influencer sounds like I can be bought, but I can't.
We'll talk about it later. But Jeremie, how was it for you? How did you gain the following?
Well, first off, my real name is Davinci. Actually, legally, it's Leonardo da Vinci. It's just that I didn't like the name Leonardo, and so I just left off
Leo.
Yeah, I had to change it so that it was just Da Vinci, right? Because everybody knows me as Da Vinci. I started a YouTube channel back in 2008 because I learned from Ron Paul that our monetary system was unfair, it transfers wealth from the poor and the middle class to the rich. And I thought he was lying, and I thought, no, this guy's crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So I started researching about money, and I realized, oh my God, this whole system is rigged against the average person. I changed my whole life, and I decided, you know what, I have to tell people about what I learned. And so I started talking about gold and silver, talking about how to avoid the financial system. And then one of my YouTubers said, Davinci, what do you think about Bitcoin? And when I saw it, I was like, scam. No one can solve the double spend problem. It's impossible. It's a computer science impossibility. And I know that because I went looking for a system like this back in 2008 because I was so mad at the banks. And
that's how you almost became Satoshi.
Exactly.
Here you go. That's the backstory.
So I learned that it was impossible, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to read the source code because I'm a software developer and prove to you that Bitcoin's a scam. And then I realized, oh my God, it's not a scam. This thing is real. And so I did a YouTube show saying, hey, listen, Bitcoin, back in March of 2011, Bitcoin was like $1, less than $1. And I was buying it like crazy, and I said, listen, every once in a while something comes along where you could buy it for really cheap and one day become extremely rich. This is it.
Bitcoin was at $1.
Yes, exactly. Bitcoin was at $1 at the time. And my videos got thumbed down, right? I was called stupid, idiot names. Everybody would do videos against my videos. I was the most hated person in the gold and silver realm ever, right? Because I was talking about Bitcoins. Because like, what? You playing with magic internet money? Come on, get real! So yeah, that's how I started in the field of Bitcoin and YouTube. And then I got famous in around December of 2018 because people saw that I also predicted the 2008 financial crisis. Saw that I predicted when Bitcoin was going to go down, when to buy and stuff like that. So people, and also when empty GOTS had collapsed. So people were very interested in hearing what I had to say after that.
We have to get some predictions at the end of this talk too. Chris, so how did you get your following? What's your story?
So basically, it's not only me. We are right now 7 people in the team, co-founders, and also obviously he is part of the bosses at Crypto. And we are doing also regular videos. So it's not only blogging. We have a YouTube channel. So we want to invite everyone to join it. We made also a video here on the cruise. So check it out, everyone. And the history is that we started like in the end of 2016, and then we did something like a spreadsheet evaluating ICOs, not STOs and IEOs because that was before the time, but ICOs. And we were really, really strict, and we never did any sponsored content like for the evaluation of ICOs. And the matter of fact was that we evaluated 1,000 ICOs, and 990 of them didn't pass our 2-scheme evaluation method and were non-investment. But the 10 who made it through actually made between 20 and 200x. So that's how we got our first following. Because I mean, a lot of I didn't hear, what did you say?
No.
About sponsorship? Yeah, that's how we got our initial following, and then we got another huge boost with Davinci, obviously. And I wanted to pick something up. You were asking how we build them up and how we build trust. And it's a very magic thing in the crypto space that influencers are way more important than traditional media outlets. In fact, everyone is making jokes about CNBC and so on, because it's something like a counter indicator when they are saying yes, it's no, and the other way around. And for influencers, it's very important. If you look back in the days in 2017, people who did undisclosed sponsored content, for example, they lost their whole reputation. But they were so powerful that they made one video and filled up a 100 million hard cap of an ICO with only one video and like 2 Twitter posts. So you can see how powerful influencers are. So I just wanted to say it's very, very important to not fool with your audience, because it's very short term in the crypto space. So it's very important to be very honest and truthful with everything you say. And whenever you get sponsored, like you are wearing a shirt with the name of a company on it, you should say that you are getting compensated. And all those influencers who didn't do that and who got catched, they lost all their reputation.
It's very true. I mean, that's like the new media, new influencers are overtaking. So probably being from Reuters, I'm probably last time here on this cruise. Nobody will invite us anymore. But going back to this subject, I mean, obviously you're saying what kind of following you gathered, and you've became famous. You've got certain responsibility, I would say, that comes with that. And again, I would like to start perhaps with Naeem, who kind of shared similar experience to me. And I would like to mention it before covering blockchain and crypto. I was a journalist in the sphere of entertainment, so I would interview celebrities and musicians and actors. But then if I went to the film festivals, like us journalists were completely unimportant. But then suddenly in the world of crypto, it's people want to speak to us. It's the reverse. So Naeem, how does it feel? Do we have the responsibility? Are we important? What's happening?
I think over the space of 2 years, audience are becoming incredibly smart. That's what happened. Because they understand, I concur with you that yes, the importance of the mainstream media has depreciated to an extent. But I think people still want, and then they still trust the mainstream media to a larger extent. And then this is where they wanted to be. And yes, it is difficult because everyone is coming up. You, like yourself, you get probably 10, 15 white papers every single day. Which one to pick up and which one not to pick up. Everything just breaks down to, okay, who is running behind the team and who are these people, and then who is really, sometimes I would even go and then look at it like, okay, who is really promoting them on a YouTube or something. That also gives you a really good indication that what is the strength of that particular project and what kind of people are really doing that. But overall, I think my interest is very much in the digital assets, because I think that is going to be the new way of new products on the market. And then this is where the institution is going to make the huge amount of money, perhaps.
So do you? How do you treat your? Do you feel powerful? Do you feel important? Like when all these people coming to you and say like, oh, why don't you cover my my ICO or my blockchain or whatever? I mean, you hate ICOs, I know.
Yeah, I know. If I was to make an Excel spreadsheet of ICOs, and I was to put that as like a Google Doc for opinions, I would come to the conclusion that the Excel spreadsheet as a Google Doc itself is a more immutable blockchain than the ICOs themselves. But it's a really
good... exchanges, for example, talk to you, right?
Right, but it's a really good question, right? Like, at what point does an influencer or a YouTuber decide to profit from their popularity, right? Because when I did not dream to be, a YouTuber, right? Like, that wasn't really it. It developed organically. And I never even, I remember when I started being a YouTuber, I was like, I will never put, Google ads on my YouTube channel. I'm not going to turn that on. I don't need $5 or $10 per video. That's not why I got into YouTube. And then, managing your YouTube channel is so time-consuming and annoying that, for me, it was, you know what? I don't need the $20 or $30 a day, but I do so much freaking work, you deserve to pay $20 or $30 a day. It's just it became weird not to do it, right? So I turned on ads. But for me personally, every person that becomes a YouTuber or has the opportunity to profit as a personality, I advise them like I do in trading. And one of the biggest things as a trader, as an investor, is don't panic and be patient and be rational and think. And jumping in on every opportunity to make money as a YouTuber is very short-sighted. Because if early on in your YouTube career, just as you're becoming popular, you start promoting the wrong company, it can really end your career if you have bigger goals. Okay, so for me, I'm really, really careful. I don't. If I wear a T-shirt, it's because I want to wear that T-shirt, not because they pay me. And but the few companies that I do have minor affiliations with. I'm very, very careful. And I am actually looking outside of the crypto space. I want my channel to be big enough to promote companies outside of crypto, companies that are established, because it's not worth it. And what I've seen in the space over being like a YouTuber for the last 5 years is that a lot of YouTubers are coming to my side and becoming Bitcoin maximalists, not because they want to. It's because if they really start to promote an altcoin and that altcoin ends up having a major problem, their entire career is in jeopardy. And the only coin that will not do that to you is Bitcoin. So you can almost see the transition of a lot of the YouTubers, like when you put them on the spot, or when they say, well, 10 other coins are going to succeed. Great, name them. And then they just, no. Right? Because they can't name the other 10. You really want to be careful, and you want to think, if you're going to remain a YouTuber, you want to make sure that you're working with established things. And not, now, if you're coming up, if you're new to the space, sure, you can take risks. But the more established your channel is, the less risk you can take with startup projects. That's my view on it.
Carl, I mean, you've been in a space shorter than that, but seems like you've got some interesting case studies.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, you talked about trust and YouTubers or influencers. And I think it's important to remember that I don't think that there are any experts in this space. And I don't feel like an expert, even though I make one video every day, and I'm constantly updated about the price and the news that is happening. But still, there's just so much going on every single minute in crypto, and there's just no way that one single person can know it all. And I know when I entered into this space back in 2017, it was so easy to just look at some influencer, some YouTuber, and immediately trust them just because they had a huge following, and take their word for granted. And so I think that none of us really feel like an expert, and I think that all of us collectively can we can help each other to understand what's going on. But don't trust a YouTuber just because you have 50,000 subscribers or 200,000 subscribers, because we have seen a lot of influencers actually do really bad things, and some of them are gone, but some might not be. And
but how do you trust a YouTuber? What do you look for, Miguel? How to trust a YouTuber? What kind of five things?
Due diligence. You know, I mean, look, I respect the YouTubing community of crypto. I'm technically a part of it, although I come from the world of filmmaking, which means my content gets published a month or sometimes 2 after its creation, because I have a full crew, I have post-production. It's more difficult than a blog, let's just put it that way. Now, it also requires me to, pay these guys, right? So, yes, I do look for sponsors, but I work with analysts that have worked for Apple that actually go and look at whoever we take on as a potential sponsor. And we, of course, disclose that in the credits and so forth, right? But then again, I can only do so much, even with those kind of professionals working with me, right? So then I always say to the audience, you have to also do your own due diligence. I'm not here necessarily to promote brands. I'm here to promote the space. But if I can have somebody backing me to help me get it out, help me get the word out, because my product takes money to make, okay, what can I do? Right. So it's a new decentralized media space where you don't want to be that kind of a guy with fast dishing content where you're like, give me an interview, give me some Bitcoins, no, right? Like, and unfortunately, we see a lot of that all over the place. I mean, I go to these conferences and I can't even know their names. They're just everywhere with their, I'm not even going to say what anyway, but it's very cheesy. Let's just put it that way. So I think it's time for the media space and the crypto community to eventually evolve and actually start creating the proper mechanism for sponsorships, KYC, exposure, etc. It's all there. It should be there. It should be a vehicle for people to let other people know about good products. And again, that good product is the line. That's where it gets hard.
So you say the answer is in transparency?
Absolutely. And also in actually doing your own due diligence. You can't just trust a YouTuber. You can't just trust an influencer, even if that guy has reputation or whatnot. I mean, that influencer still has to pay his bills. He's got families. I mean, this is, it's not a hobby. It's a job, right? So
I think I'll concur with you. And obviously, these guys, they spend a lot of time on YouTube. They need to get paid for those labor hours. But the key is who is executing the project. That is the most important thing. If you see that product is coming out from the MIT lab, or the guys are from Stanford or from Harvard, from many of these guys are supporting these ones, and they're actually developing the technology, more importantly, then you can clearly see that, that the product is going to become a successful. And then I think nowadays you can really see that a lot of companies, a lot of investors, they are looking at not only the product, but they're looking at the further what's going to happen in the phase 2 and phase 3. Which potential company is going to buy them? Because it is all about exit before you enter into the product. And I think as long as
I'm just confirming that.
Sorry. So I think as long as you have those ones, so it's a lot more easier.
Can I voice in on this as well? So I think one of the most important things is to actually know what the hell it is. I think in this whole space, there's so many fad words. It's like, what is mining? Okay, go actually, it's actually not hard. Just go on your computer and try mining something and do it yourself and understanding it. I think a lot of people, they watch YouTube just to maybe understand it a little bit, and maybe it's an entry, but I definitely don't encourage it to be the endpoint, because for the endpoint to really work, to make yourself immune to all these bad words, you got to really do and understand your own research. There's so many, I see so much crap these days about blockchain 2.0, blockchain 3.0, 1 million transactions per second. And it's my mind is just blown. And you have all these fake Bitcoins around, like Bitcoin SV running around.
BTC2.
BTC2, BTC3. I mean, this is way better, right? BTC3 is better than 1, right? I mean, come on, guys. So I feel like a lot of influencers took advantage of the space, and that's why I hate the word influencers as well, because they kind of try to abuse these bad words, and even the idea of a DLT or even a digital asset. How many digital assets are there in the space? And I actually have to disagree with Naeem there. You said the project team is very important. Great. And for equity investments, sure. If you're looking at equity, a great team that doesn't screw around, that's consistently delivering a product is important. But the problem is sometimes the product and the coin has no correlation. If you're looking at digital assets, does that asset even correspond to whatever? Does that even get value? What is your exit point? If you're equity, then sure, you got Series A, Series B, Series D to go and exit your equity. But
digital assets, you don't have Series A.
You don't have it. And some people are just looking for a stupid pump, right? Some people are just looking for quick money in this space. And I think it's important to do two things, right? Two really important things. One is not to look for quick money, because the only way to the fastest quick money is scams, and unfortunately that's going to lead to a total disaster, just like gambling. The second thing is really to understand what the hell it is, to understand how Bitcoin, how Satoshi Nakamoto actually solved that problem of the double spend. I mean, a lot of people still can't explain that properly, how to even solve those key issues. And we're looking at a lot of very, very centralized systems nowadays that promise fast transactions per second because people think that's important, but they're not decentralized. So I think it's not secure, it's not decentralized, and it's going to end up in disaster.
Can I just add one quick thing, and I'll shut up. I'm sorry for taking up the floor.
5 seconds.
This space is molding into something new for every industry, including the media industry. And I respect everyone here and everyone out in space for trying to evolve with it. This is evolution of humanity, actually, at its best. So there's going to be a purge, there's going to be fuck-ups, there's going to be all of that for every industry, including the media industry, trying to be a part of it. So it's still a very young seed that is growing, and we have a lot of things to learn. And hopefully we learn from the mistakes.
We're going to get spiritual in a moment, but now
It's not spiritual. It's just that's logic.
I was just channeling some people from the crypto world. I was talking again about responsibility. As I won't use the word influencers.
Content creators.
Being content creators and having this responsibility. How technical should you be? Like, you guys. I mean, when somebody approaches you and says like, "Hey, can you look at my projects?" and let's say it's got like important people behind it, like, but then like, do you have the qualifications and expertise to actually look at the white paper and say like, and even look at the code, or do you have people who you trust who can advise on you, so you fully understand and you entirely sure that you promoting or talking about the right thing?
I wanted to say something about that, and that was very important for me because afterwards I will sleep very well. First of all, the trust, and also about the expertise. No one knows everything, and I want to incentivize everyone not to take everything from one source or two, not even 5 sources. I'm for myself. I'm watching Bitcoin maximalists. I even watched a few videos of Craig White, even though I don't agree with him at all. Because otherwise you fall for confirmation bias. If you are a Bitcoin maximalist, and maybe I would consider myself like close to it, but not completely. And I would only watch that content the whole time. I would not even like be able to watch over my horizon and learn even more. So I don't trust anyone completely. I try to get like pieces of information, take them objectively, and then make my own research on top of that. And I would like to incentivize everyone to do it like that, because otherwise you will fail actually, because the truth, no one covers the whole truth, only part of it. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, and you can try to get the truth out of everyone and build it more properly, obviously, if you are intelligent enough for that. And I guess everyone here is.
Any more comments or opinions? So, like, do you want to say, like, when it comes to technical due diligence, like, how important is it when you are a content creator?
Well, I'm a software developer, and as a software developer, I don't know everything. There's so much to learn about software; it's incredible. So I have to do research every single time. And so what I do, whenever I learn something, I want to understand it, I do research. And so research for me is second nature, because that's how I do it in my job. And so even though I can't know every single thing that's going to happen in the world, I do get a sense of an idea of what's happening. And so I that's how I come to my predictions. I basically look at how everything, I do my research, and I come up with my ideas and how I think it's going to work out in the future. Not always right. God knows I'm not always right, but I do my best. And now, as for the trust thing, right? You know what? A lot of people, when I was doing videos, would do a video against me saying how Davinci's a fraud, right? And I'm like, okay, fine. If you think that, it's up to you. But I know that I'm not a fraud, and so I'm just going to continue doing what I do. And you know what? People are going to either think I'm a fraud or I'm not. And the history will decide, and that's how I leave it.
Carl, where is the microphone? Oh my God. Oh.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say that personally, I also believe that, of course, you have to research the projects if you want to do the sponsored content. And I think that the credible YouTubers, they do, but there are probably those that do not. And I'm actually one of those who I don't make sponsored content at all, because I know that if I were to do it, I would have to be very, very, very careful and actually put a lot of time and effort into it, and it seems like that would be like a full-time job, so I just decided to not do it.
How do you survive?
I have other streams of income, so...
Can I know what streams of income?
Not specifically, but I'm fine.
I mean, I'm a content creator. I want something.
Well, I mean, there are other forms of partnerships that are not actual partnerships. So you can use affiliate links. That's one way to make money without having any contract. So if I like a product that I use myself, for example, the Ledger product, the hardware wallet, that I know is useful for my followers, and I know that I can stand by that product, and I can go to Ledger, ask them for this affiliate link, where I just have it below the video, and I say to my followers, basically, if you want to secure your crypto, make sure that your Bitcoin are safe, buy this Ledger Nano S or Ledger Nano X. This is what I use myself, and I know that I'm helping my followers, and also I get a commission of like 10%, I think, from those sales. And I have no contracts. I can stop promoting that affiliate link anytime I want to, and no one can. And I mean, I can vouch for that product, and there are other products that I myself use. So that's a form of an income that you can actually
Any more?
Just a follow up on a tech thread. So something that is quite accessible in the space is if you actually download and install the actual Bitcoin client. So in terms of tech and whatever it is that you want to look at, it takes around, for me personally, what I did when I looked at the Lightning Network was I made my own Lightning node. You can actually search that up. It's called Box Lightning. You can search that up 1ml. And I do recommend you guys do that. If you want to experiment with any sort of new technology or even current technology, you should actually try to test and use it. The reason being is because you actually learn a lot during the process. So I ran my own Linux kind of machine up somewhere in Singapore, Amazon Cloud, and install the actual Bitcoin client and then run Lightning. And I think that's actually quite crucial when you're actually looking at any...
I did that and lost half a Bitcoin.
And not try to lose half a Bitcoin in the process. Try to maybe with 0.005 Bitcoin. But it is actually surprisingly hard not to lose Bitcoin during that process because you actually can't back up your channels actually. So if your server goes down, you're messed up. And you got to know these things because you got to know the strengths and the weaknesses of particular things. Sometimes that's really common in media is they talk about, oh, this is great, this is going to be life-changing, it's going to be so fast. And then when you actually use it, it's like, okay, it feels like we're back in the command prompt days, like it's super brilliant. It will change. Some things will change, some things will not. Just like say the backup side of channels. Actually realize you can't actually back up Lightning channels because if your backup is out of date and you try to resync that up with the Bitcoin network, the Bitcoin network will penalize you because you're actually uploading out of date information. So there's actually little caveats and little things to certain technologies that there's limitations that it's extremely hard to overcome, and you must know what they are, where they are before you become fluent in the space. And I think that's important, to be fluent in the space and not to be fooled by jargon. I think kind of repeating the same messages, but definitely it's worth that effort. Like it's 8 hours, it's not that much. I mean, technically it's your one day, your one weekend to just try to, and I do that like on myself as well. I make videos every day, and on the weekend I try to experiment with it, and I think it's worth your time doing so.
And Michael, now you've got a microphone, what is your advice to the content creators of how you can support yourself?
Don't make content. Just don't do it, man. Don't do it. Don't start. It's a tough life. No, don't do it. Don't bother. It's okay.
So do I understand correctly that you support yourself because of mining you did in the past?
Yeah, there's some sort of things like that. And I occasionally I have ledger codes. Sometimes I do take on sponsors. I do tell people. But honestly, like if you're looking at this as a career, it's not the right time yet.
Don't do it.
So even if you would love to do it,
big network to help.
Yeah, that's a big network. RT.
Yeah. Quite a few of you said that this is your content is not for people to make quick money. So what do you think your audience is looking for, if not quick money?
They're looking for quick money.
Yeah,
exactly. So like you do it, you create it.
Let's be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. Here, they're all looking for quick money.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I try to. People message me a lot on Telegram, and they say, Davinci, can you just tell me one coin that's going to make me 10x or 100x? And I could tell them. I could say that.
I'm not
but the problem is, right? You're going to put all your money in it, and it could go to zero. And that's my problem. I'm not going to tell you. Because what you need to put, so most people have like $1,000 or $100. And if you only have $1,000 to invest, and you're willing to lose that $1,000, guess how much you're supposed to put in one of those coins that I might mention that are going to go to 100x? $5, maybe $10 at the most if you're going to go crazy. But nobody does that, right? They all want to bet the farm on one coin and hope to make it big, and that's not how you're going to make money. You have to make money very slowly in this world, because if you do it any other way, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, Miguel. Miguel, yeah.
Let me just do it real quick. Look, I'm a believer in like that 80-20 rule, which I didn't even know about until after I was a content creator. And I give away almost everything for free. And then I charge a somewhat large sum of money for the last 10 to 15% of my knowledge. But the majority of it is free. And I go out of my way to try to provide as much free content as I can and monetize it in a way that doesn't force people to spend money to send to me. I think affiliate codes are great. You just have to make sure that those affiliate codes are not Ponzi schemes, right? You have to make sure that those affiliate codes are sustainable so that the company is paying you in a sustainable way from what your followers are paying the company for their product. I do think that, there's nothing you can do. People are going to trust YouTubers. They are. The only thing I say is if your YouTuber did something bad, don't make excuses for them. Stop watching their channel and don't make excuses. And you were doing a lot about gold and silver investing and all that stuff. And I've been, I was a gold bug myself back in the day, but eventually I got myself out of it. And I am very critical of the gold and silver, perpetual bulls in gold and silver at the same time screaming that the stock market is going to collapse. And if you're wrong for 10 years in a row, stop watching these people, right? Like, at some point, you got to stop making excuses that it's a conspiracy theory and move on.
No,
But
I don't think that's a conspiracy theory.
No.
I think that the stock market hasn't collapsed because of the monetary policy, because of the Federal Reserve bringing quantitative easing 1, 2, and 3, and now we are in a possibly on the verge of quantitative 4.
I agree with that, right? But it's been that way for 100 years, and at some point, people will die and still be wrong, right? You have to adjust. You have to adjust to the reality of the situation that everybody is incentivized to make sure that stocks don't crash, and you have to tell people that, right? As much as people on YouTube want stocks to crash, and when I have to go head to head with a person that wants stocks to crash, I look at them and say, so you want every member of your friends and family to lose their job and go broke so your gold goes through the roof?
Jeremy.
Hayek once said, right? Hayek once said that our system is not sustainable in the long run. And what's in Keynes said, in the long run, we're all dead, so who cares? Well, let's make the money right now. Really? You don't want things sustainable? So you want something that's going to crash? Yes, it's going to collapse. We don't know when. They're trying to keep it up as long as they can, and I hope they do keep it up for as long as they can, because you know what? It will be a big disaster when it does collapse. But it is going to happen because it's not sustainable.
Yeah, just like...
we got off track. One quick thing about monetization, right? So that's a viral. On the monetization side, look at the long term and try to find other ways to monetize. And the thing is, I do believe that some of the best content creators are experts in their field. You're an expert in your field, and you're a content creator in your own field. And that, you should be able to monetize your field because now you're more popular because of being a content creator. And even the little things, and I wish there was better means for people to know how to monetize. We have to look for ways to monetize. I teach workshops on how to trade. Jimmy Song and myself do dinners. You're a popular content creator. You can organize a dinner and charge an extra 20, 30, 50% on the price of the meal. Because people will come and want to meet you because they respect your time. There are ways to monetize outside of doing something that could end up hurting you in the future.
Miguel and Carl, in the meantime, what did you want to say?
Well, I just wanted to answer. Tony said that they are incentivized to keep the stock market afloat, and I think that's the problem, right? They just reinflate the bubble. They print more money since 2008.
The crash is the cure.
Yeah, exactly. So you should have just let the big reset happen 2008, let it just collapse and reset, but instead just reinflating the bubble, and they keep expanding the debt. That's not sustainable, and it's just exactly like a pyramid scheme. You know it's going to collapse at some point, but it's impossible to know exactly when, because that's out of your there are people, that centralized entities controlling the outcome of what is going to happen. So,
and I think that really brings us out to the point I was trying to make as we were kind of drifting away from it, but it is the audience, right? The audience. I mean, the layers of the audience are quite different. You know, we have, I'd say in the community, we have, of course, the people that are, trying to innovate, and maybe they're not too philosophical about it or whatever. Then we have the traders, right? And then we have some aspect of the traders and innovators that are scammers, these shabby people, whatever. And then we have these, decentralized nomads, the crypto anarchists.
Which one are you?
And I'm not really sure yet, but I'm trying to bridge the gap. And then we hold the traditionals as well, right? So what can a YouTube blog versus, let's say, a film or something like cater to, right? You're catering to different audiences. So, you can influence different audiences and different outcomes at the same time. And that's also a fine line where, for example, I try to bridge the gap between, let's say, the decentralized nomads and the traditional institutionals in some sense. I'm also trying to inspire people that perhaps this is a new way of doing business. This whole convergence of IoT, big data, and AI, blockchain, big data. It's a new way of creating things, of creating products, of ensuring a more decentralized future for all of us. So that's also another thing, right? What kind of audience are you catering to?
Yeah, Naeem, you had a.
I just wanted to kind of finish on this one, perhaps. Like, the Fed did, or the different central banks did what they had to do, and then you and I, we both know we cover the traditional markets, but they are doing favor to this digital asset market to an extent, because whenever there would be a debt crisis, what is going to pop the most? It's going to be a safe haven, and we know that Bitcoin is one of the safe havens right now, and then that is the only point that we will see that, okay, more people coming into it. The second point that I wanted to address, you were saying that, okay, how do you flush them out? Look at the size of this conference, compare it to the previous years, and then you can really see that the people who were really coming for quick bucks, they've already flushed out of the system.
The purge.
They already been flushed out of the system. And then the third thing is, with the invention of digital assets, we are going to go back to the actual basics of business. That, okay, you are tokenizing certain assets, and if it is a real estate, whether it's a fungible or non-fungible, if there is a demand and supply, that will determine everything from here.
Chris?
Yes, one very important thing. Everyone says that the ECB and the Federal Reserve, they are doing that since 2008. They're actually doing that since 1976, since the Bretton Woods system collapsed and we had no gold standard behind the money. So there's one quote, and it's not exactly like that, but the meaning is like that markets can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. So it can collapse next year, it can collapse like in a week or in 10 or 15 years. So you could make 10 years longer money in the stock market, but now we have the beauty of Bitcoin as a safe haven, so we can just switch over and do not rely on that luck, like whether we can do it for 1 more year or 10 more years. We can just switch over to Bitcoin and finally have that solution where we know the outcome already.
Yeah, you don't know the monetary policy.
Also, I think we can also assign the subject to another panel, right? Because we're drifting away, but we also need to give the opportunity to our audience to get the quick prize. So, is there any questions from the audience about like what we've been talking about so far? Larry, is the microphone? Oh, there is a microphone coming to you from there.
Oh, there's a microphone.
So my question is, I've been interviewed a lot over my career, and one thing that I noticed when I started getting interviewed about Bitcoin project is that the critical questions disappear. There's people talk about hype, and a lot of times it isn't the sort of breathless hype in the industry that is the problem, it seems to me. It's the lack of critical questions and lack of critical examination. So I just thought I'd ask you to react to that. I mean, do you think that's a problem? And if so, how do you deal with it?
I think what happened during that space of time is that a large number of people wanted to get their views up, and then they just wanted to bring famous people online, right? Like yourself and many others within the same arena. And again, as you pointed out, because of the lack of knowledge to an extent, those critical questions were never asked to you. I include myself in that category because I don't think I have that sufficient knowledge to ask you those questions. But as long as that, yes, we are, or anyone of that nature is asking you those questions, it is going to make the space better, especially in the digital space.
No, I think it's a huge problem. I'm actually one of the few people that was doing that and still occasionally do it. It's a huge problem, and it's a very frustrating problem for a content creator. People ask me to come on my YouTube channel, and the first thing I tell them is, you do not want to come on my YouTube channel because I will embarrass you in your company. Because I will ask unreasonable critical questions that you will not be able to answer. Because if you answer them, you can probably go to prison by answering those questions. So I actually try to stay away from it because it's not something I want to be like involved in. And this is why I go after the big projects. Like, I don't bother with the small projects. If your project can make it on its own, great. Like, it'll make it on its own. But this is why I am critical of the big projects, like Ethereum, like Ripple, like Steemit. Like, I go after the big projects, and I don't bother with the small ones because if you can make it, you'll make it. That's fine. And but you have to make it on your own. And it also bothers me when people are like, the best way to not get your tweet retweeted by me is to find a way to text me and ask me to retweet your tweet. Mm-hmm. That's like an automatic. It's never going to happen, right?
So if I tweet you, ask you not to retweet my tweet, then you're going to tweet my tweet.
I'm not asking you to
I remember you retweeted something and I asked you for that.
Yeah, we went back and forth for like 8 messages. I'm like, dude, I'm like you
wanted you to tweet it out.
I was like willing to retweet his, but he wanted me to make an organic one about his YouTube, and I'm like, you're pushing it, man. You're really pushing it.
We created a video and we sent 40,000 people over to his channel and we put his YouTube link on the top of the description. I just wanted to say that it was 40,000 people coming over to your channel.
How much did you pay?
For what?
He didn't pay
for that.
I'm joking. He paid me. No, I'm joking. No one paid anyone.
No, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I think you paid for the drinks that night, so technically you paid me.
But building up what Larry said, I was wondering, like, obviously Tom's mission is that in 10 years' time or maybe 5 years' time there will be no Ethereum, no Litecoin, Steemit, there will be just Bitcoin. No?
The biggest problem is that it's such a new space, and a lot of the content creators in the space are not capable of asking the critical questions, and that does frustrate the content creators that do understand the space.
So my follow-up is basically you guys are acting as informal advisors to unsophisticated investors, aren't you? And they're putting in a lot of money, and there's a lot of people who are more sophisticated who are essentially preying on them. And don't you owe it, basically, to those unsophisticated investors to give them, well, more critical information so they can make better choices?
I think you hit the nail with the hammer on that one, because the biggest issue right now is a balance between what people want to watch and how much detail you want to go into. And something I did try to teach people how to run command lines and stuff. You instantly see a huge drop off in the number of views. Now, we also have other problems too, because Naeem was talking about exit points, right? So we were talking about for traditional equity, you got Series A, Series B, and Series C. But in crypto, you can exit immediately if the crypto pumps, right? If it goes up 2x or even 1.2x, people can pump. And the biggest problem is something I realized in this space, especially when you saw in early 2017, which I posted about this, was that the coins that were lower in value, so there was a systematic unit bias. People wanted cheaper coins. They didn't care what the market cap was. They just wanted cheaper coins because people, the general public, the unsophisticated investors at that point, they really didn't want to understand more than that. And I think it's something that we do have to come with time to actually start the foundation of education. And I think that's much more important, but it's really hard to do.
Really quick. I do my best to make sure that the unqualified and unsophisticated investors do not invest in anything but Bitcoin, but I have been greatly failing at that goal.
I think Donald Trump was on CNBC today for about 40 minutes, and he discussed something very similar about how Facebook is in a process of advising a lot of clients of what they should do and what they shouldn't do through the advertisements and everything. So Facebook is a media which can dictate large sum of money. YouTubers isn't that sort of a media. This is your average Joe like myself who has like 500 or 1,000 pounds in my account, and I wanted to trade a smaller penny stock in order to make money, and then I use these mediums in order to do that. Yes, I have a responsibility that I shouldn't be advising them, but yes, the bad apples, they are doing that whether knowingly or whether unknowingly. But now, I think that today, the statement that he made is that for all the FANG stocks, especially Facebooks and stuff, they are getting sued by the European authorities. They're taking our companies, our money. Now let's deal with that. And I think that entire regulation space in the next few days is going to change quite a lot, because now Donald Trump is going to protect those companies, or he's going to do something about it.
I think gentleman next to Larry's got a question, right? Oh, you've got a question. Sorry, behind this thing you look like a gentleman. I didn't see you because I've got this thing. So I thought you were a man.
So does that work? Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So actually, I consider myself part of the media and content community as well, because I was involved with RT together with Miguel, and I also worked with Forbes, content creator. So, and I'm a journalist, and from a journalist perspective, I think that influencers is something that journalists eventually evolutionized into, but they lack responsibility. And the responsibility question was Larry's question. So my question is, so from my perspective, journalist, a person who has journalist colleagues, who has particular audience, right? A name behind his own name. It's a person who has to a particular mission to investigate and to educate the audience. Would you, from the point where you stand, whether you are a filmmaker, an influencer, a journalist, right? Would you investigate and educate, or would you influence? You can just answer with one word.
Yeah, I think that's also interesting. What's your mission, right?
What's the mission? Would you influence or would you educate?
I pretty much investigate. Well, I don't do much investigate in these days, but I want to start it back up again. But I mostly educate. Like 98% of everything I do is to educate. and I have no intention to influence. Everything I do now, I pretty much did it when I had a very little audience, and it's all about education, and people came, and they continue to come. So from the beginning, it was all about education, and I was a high school teacher as my first job. I was a college professor later on, and it's great. One of the reasons why I quit being a high school teacher after 1 year is because I was educating people that did not want to be there. And now that I'm educating people that want to be there, I really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Just definitely educate. I mean, I want to lead by example as well. Like if I can do it myself, I will. Even though I'm not a programmer, sometimes I try to do and look at the code. And actually, I taught even how to deploy your own contracts on Ethereum. So I think that's really important. Just actually lead by example if you can.
The only problem with that you are all educating is that if you call yourself educators, that sounds really crap, and nobody would actually tune into your channels. So if you don't want to call yourself influencers, how do you want to call yourself? Diffluencers? What's anti?
I think education is very important. I mean, that's how. Before I learned how to trade, I lost hundreds and hundreds of Bitcoins. When I learned how to trade, I gained back those hundreds and hundreds of Bitcoins. So education is very important. And I after learning how to trade well, I did a series of videos. I put that series of videos out on my website, davincicodes.net/videos. You can check it out there. I'll show you how I turned $20,000 into $10 million over 4 years. So just learning how to trade well. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, but it takes time, and it's very.
So that's not quick money.
It's not quick money,
but it's pretty fast.
So my answer is also educate, but in the end, only 4 years. My answer is also educate, but in the end, if we are honest, even though you provide objective information, you still influence the people, even though you don't want to, because you are in front of a camera, you are well prepared, and you are putting yourself in a position where the viewers consider you an expert. And no matter how objective you are always influencing the audience. I mean, sometimes we are doing objective technical analysis, and we are saying, don't buy that right now. And that we are not doing that anymore, but we picked out something like 100 million volume coin, and we said, don't buy it, and it went up once we published the video, regardless what we said. So we are just not doing that anymore. We are doing Bitcoin content mainly, but that example shows that no matter how objective you are, even though you are just stating facts, you are always influencing the people also.
Miguel?
I guess my answer would also be to educate, but moreover to inspire. I think as a filmmaker, in my mission, it is to inspire mass adoption.
Inspire, okay.
Inspire through cinema, through filmmaking, through emotion, through feeling. Not through, what I do compared to Tone is very different. And like I said, there's a different audience for all of that content.
What's your audience?
My audience are,
people?
I think it's people that are interested in the overall, I guess, as you mentioned earlier, philosophical aspect of it all. Maybe some, and maybe the filmmaking, the cinematic aspect of that. Otherwise, I come from the background of I was never a journalist. I was a filmmaker before I was associated with a journalistic media source or whatnot. So, to me, it is being a filmmaker in this space. It is being an image maker. It is to propel this space
show how
into the
beautiful
masses.
the world of blockchain is.
No, we show the bad sides too. We show people getting scammed in Thailand. We show people losing their bitcoins. We show the scams as well. It's not all handy dandy. It's the bad sides of it as well. And I think that's where it comes to being objective in your content creation. So.
Yeah, so this educate versus influence, I think it's very important also to understand that there's a huge difference, of course, between facts and opinions. And in my videos, I always try to differentiate between what is fact and what are my opinions. But I do express my opinions from time to time. But I try to make it clear that what I'm saying right now is my opinion. And when it comes to blockchain, when it comes to Bitcoin, more specifically, I think facts, they speak for themselves. So when I talk about facts, then I am basically educating. And if that is influencing people to understand Bitcoin more, then I guess I am influencing at that point. But at that point, I can stand by my words because I know that I'm stating facts, and anyone can interpret facts as they like. But I think that Bitcoin facts, they talk for themselves.
Mm-hmm. And talking about influencing and predicting, what about me? What question would you like to ask me?
Influence or educate?
Yeah, totally influence. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm the only honest person in the room. Okay, but that was a joke. And I only learned irony on this trip. I didn't know what irony was before. No, I'm joking again. So, is there any other questions from the audience? So 2 more. Okay. Hello.
Actually, I wanted to address Miguel, but he has run out.
Okay, so there's a person behind you who wants a question. There's somebody. We come back to you. Yeah.
Well, actually, what I'm proposing is we are here based on everyone. Everyone is based on the blockchain, blah, blah, blah. But we should, I believe, educate people. If you're influencers, if you have some, power to educate people, learn them, make them learn that they should invest only in the project which is running, not the ICO that, for example, promising something. Yeah, we are, for example, from Prague, Czech Republic, Miracle Teller. Yeah, we have created a working product, and only then we launched an ICO for a strategic purpose. Yeah, and I believe that all the community will benefit from learning that you should. Well, I mean, the rest of the community should invest only on those projects that have a running product.
That's very true, but that's not a question. So,
I
think you will not get the prize.
I wanted to have a question for Miguel.
You've got.
Running away.
But Naeem, do you want to comment on that?
I just would, unless are you finished there, or you want to say something? Okay. I think it is a responsibility, but at the same time, if you see an opportunity, make it disclosure. In Forbes, we have to make a disclosure, whether we have a position, whether we don't have a position. On CNBC, I don't know how many of you watch Fast Money or not, they have to make a disclosure. Do you have a position? You don't have a position. Same with Bloomberg. If you see an opportunity, then you will invest. Naturally, you will invest in that, and make a disclosure. And I concur once again with you on the second one that the education is important. Bigger media, doesn't matter whatever it is, that will give you the most amount of 2 things: exposure and the trustfulness of that media.
Mm-hmm. The gentleman behind you wants to also. You also want a question?
Oh, sorry. Switch it on again.
Hello.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, it's I'm also in the media. I consider myself like the middleman between the ICOs, the STOs, the blockchain projects, and the media. So I'm PR agent. We spoke before, me and Ania, I connected with you on LinkedIn for. So here's the thing: working in this field for 2 years now, we have noticed that promoting blockchain on the mainstream media is considerably very, very low. Thankfully, we've had these guys, the influencers. They emerged on YouTube, on Reddit, and they took the place on the from the mainstream media. The question is and I can't confirm Crypto's guy when he talked about CNBC trying to talk down on crypto and manipulate it in some ways. So I was interviewed on CNBC as well for 1 hour, and they were on air. They were telling me they're very, very bearish about crypto and blockchain, talking down and off air.
When in January?
That was actually January. Actually, February.
Yeah, that's the worst time.
It was like the low.
That was a low.
Exactly. Yeah. So that time, and they're off air when we're going into commercials. They were telling me, okay, how can we buy into Bitcoin? So there was some kind of something like orders from above. My question to you, Ania, and to Naeem, did you get really some kind of orders from above on not promoting crypto, not talking so much about crypto? Because these guys would be like influencers, would be talking like every day.
I would answer that question. Yeah. Bitcoin only touched 20,000 because of the bigger media getting involved into it. And let's be honest with that.
That's true.
You can criticize bigger media as much as you want, but Bitcoin wouldn't have made to 20,000 unless the bigger media would have got that. Does that? And do we get any sort of I think we are responsible to answer questions to our chief editors.
Yeah.
How much DD have you done? What is your involvement into that? These are the two questions which makes the bigger media more responsible, if that answers your question.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that yes, it is more difficult to present projects because they're more conservative naturally, and it's such a disruptive technology. So we end up covering things which are kind of like, you know, bigger confirmed projects, or quite opposite, quite silly projects. Like, you know, I did the reportage about the charity track called Bitcoineta in Argentina, and it's cute, it's nice, and it doesn't disturb anything. So that's good. But from my perspective, I'm mainly video journalist, and I'm doing the documentary. So what my mission is, an answer to your question, is not even to educate or influence, but I just want to show the people behind technology, and I want to let people speak for themselves, and for you investors or everybody else decide whether you trust these people to run this, you know, decentralized technology, because they are actually, somebody is in charge. It is like this beautiful decentralized, transparent tool, but at the end there's somebody behind it, and there is like new elite emerging, right? So I want to show who this new elite is and whether we trust them and whether we should trust them.
But this decentralized technology should be responsible. In the first place, responsible.
That's what we started with. We started with responsibility.
Your clients.
Okay. Is there anything else?
You want to say something? Yeah, I just wanted to continue. Like,
you still want? You hope to win the prize for the best question?
No. Just saying, like blockchain. I mean, it's obviously an emerging industry, but it's like, I mean, the question still figures. Is there a limit on promoting blockchain projects?
There is no limit. Absolutely no limit. We can write. We can write as much as we want. As a contributor, as a columnist, we have a full authority to express our opinion. There is absolutely no limit.
Maria.
But continuing to this topic, please, quick question. You've said correctly, you have to do your own research as a journalist, as somebody who's presented a project. But whereas you make clear distinction, and you like the project probably, one is positive. Whereas clear distinction between PR and journalism in crypto.
Oh, that's easy. That's easy. Whether or not you're getting paid to talk about the project, that's the distinction.
And you like the project,
exactly.
And you are not paid. Here is journalism.
Exactly.
If you get paid, then it's PR.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Okay, we've got two more questions. The gentleman over there was first, but the microphone. Oh yeah.
Shall we take the questions after?
Sorry?
Shall we take the questions afterwards?
Yeah, cool. Like one next slide, yeah.
My question is about what is your opinion about deleting the content? If you had created an article or review about a project, and in a while this project become a scam, would you delete this content, or how you would deal with it?
So I've almost never deleted any content. Like everything I've done is still there online. There was one video I took down. I did this, like, again, goes back to the other question. I did an interview with a friend of mine who was starting a new company, and I asked too many critical questions. And he answered a question in a way that his lawyers and compliance team didn't like, and it's a legitimate project. But the way he answered it, it wasn't right. And he asked me to edit that question out because, his lawyer said, you did not answer that correctly, and it's bad for us. So I just took down the video because it was already a month old, and I was too lazy to edit it out because no one watches content that's old, right? I mean, if the amount of people that would have watched this afterwards didn't matter, and it was just laziness. The only other video that I took down was again because I asked too many critical questions, and I didn't want to get a friend in trouble, so I did a live interview with someone in law enforcement, and I asked too many questions I shouldn't have asked, and the person was too nice and answered them in a way that can get them personally in trouble, and I took down that video. So the only reasons why I took down those videos was one is a compliance issue, and two, it was my personal choice not to get someone in trouble. But other than that, I believe all content needs to stay up. And it's actually very frustrating because I don't have time to download every single interview I do, every single thing I do, and I just star it and I put it in a playlist. Hey, here's an interview that someone did of me, and I put it in a playlist, and I'm going back through his playlist, and 40% of those videos are private, not available. And I don't even know what they are, and it's really, really frustrating. It really annoys me when people take down their content. If a content creator takes down their tweets or their videos, stop watching them and make sure everybody knows that they're taking down their content.
Okay, final question from Sean, and then we're just going to hear. All right, two more questions, but the good ones.
Yes. First, a quick comment, then a question. Comment. First of all, great to see Davinci here in the flesh, the famous Davinci. PR is not paid promotion. They're two different things. PR is typically when you tell a journalist about something and he writes about it without being paid. Unfortunately, too many people call things PR when they pay something. That is advertising. That's paid promotion. There is a difference. And anybody who runs a PR firm, I've run the biggest one for 6 years, gets annoyed when we hear advertising called PR. But my question is, what's the role of technology journalism? Everybody's talking about crypto journalism and mainstream, but the tech crunches, the Engadgets, when they're trying to explain a new technology, obviously Tone can put his hands over his ear because he thinks only Bitcoin is the relevant technology, but if there's a new consensus mechanism, that there's something new that's supposed to replace blockchain, DLTs, hash graph, all this stuff, what's the role in the tech crunches and the Engadgets? And if they get it wrong, is it the role of crypto journalists and mainstream journalists to kind of have it out with them?
Get the academics to talk about that.
Sean, do you need a microphone?
Oh, no.
You know, okay, great.
Jeremie, what's your one moment of regret? The one thing you did that you wish you could take back?
Oh, that's a good question. And everybody has to answer that.
Oh, yeah. Being too publicly honest on my YouTube channel is something I would certainly take back. And it's not that, I would lie. It's just that, I shouldn't have said certain things, starting with too much personal information.
Yeah, I did that too.
Where I live, what my nationality is. But these things aren't really important, right? It's not important. My jurisdiction is not important. So having my jurisdiction public, and it's not even public, I never proved my jurisdiction, right? It's public by public opinion because I've talked too much. And that ended up costing me more than half my revenue just by having that. And it's also, in the long run, it could be a security risk as a Bitcoiner if people know too much about you. So the only thing I would take back is being too honest on my channel instead of just not saying certain things and keeping it private.
Jeremie?
It's Davinci, by the way.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Everybody does that. My gym teacher always called me Jeremie. I hated it. But anyway, so yeah, I would agree with Tony Vays. I had to take down a couple of videos that was mostly talking about.
Oh, dude, you're gonna get a lot of bad comments now. Didn't you hear what Boxmining said?
Did you say something about Davinci?
Tone Vays. Sorry, Tone Vays. But my other regret is basically mining and not buying Bitcoin. I mined the snot out of it for quite some time, and that was actually not worth it unless you did it industrially.
I think you meant like what do you regret as a content creator, right?
As a content creator?
Does anybody have a regret as a content creator, which is different than revealing their personal information? Yeah, Chris?
I want to say that I try to make as many decisions as I can. And I want to say that I regret nothing because every decision, no matter if it was right or wrong, brought me to where I am right now. And I'm living in the present right now, so I'm looking forward and trying to make the right decisions in the future. I cannot take wrong decisions back anyway from the past, so it's a waste of energy focusing on that.
Okay, should we move on to our prediction bit and wrap it up? Naeem, what's going to happen?
I only invest in Bitcoin, and for disclosure, I do. The last time that I had it was in February this year, all documented in the documents, in articles. I'm not gonna sell it until until there's a huge debt crisis. To be honest with you, that is the only way I see the value in this.
Okay, Carl.
Prediction in terms of price?
Any prediction. You can do a prediction about like presidential election.
Well, I honestly 100% believe that Bitcoin inevitably is going to reach the market cap of gold.
Oh yeah?
And that is
By when?
By, let's say, at least within 5 years, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I believe so. And if we are lucky, maybe within even 3 years, because of the 4-year cycle that I think is very obvious when you look at the charts. The halving schedule clearly puts pressure on Bitcoin, and it looks right now as we have seen the bottom, and I think that a 3-year bull run right now is actually a reasonable assumption to make.
Nice. Michael?
I just steal this one because it's slightly a better mic. So I learned one of my biggest regrets is making predictions. I think because it's so volatile, this space. A lot of times there are so many factors in play that we don't see. I mean, right now, cool. There's some really important factors that I'm slowly discovering, like how this whole trade war is having a really negative effect on the Chinese, and they want to move assets out of the country. But will that be Bitcoin? We don't know, right? And what does that mean for the price of Bitcoin too? So personally, I do believe that in the long term, I'm discovering that there are a lot of extremely strong uses for store value, especially when governments become more strict with their foreign policy, like foreign transfer of money policies. And I think that's what's going to be a factor driving things forward. But anyways, in terms of prediction, in terms of years, I think it's extremely dangerous to predict.
Ton?
I really don't mind making predictions as long as those predictions are within a specific time frame for the prediction itself, and as long as they're not unreasonable, as long as they're reasonable and you have some kind of sound experience and analytics behind it. As for Bitcoin, I've been expecting a major pullback in the price. I think we've gone up too far, too fast. And I've been waiting for my 30 to 40% correction at a minimum. And I'm one of the few people that is not ruling out new lows under 3,000. Probably unlikely, but I have not ruled it out. So I am looking for that correction in order to buy back in. And based on how the price corrects, it'll depend on where I feel is a good buying opportunity in Bitcoin. As for the other markets, I've been bullish on the U.S. stock market for years now, and I remain so. I've been expecting new all-time highs for the U.S. stock market for 5 or 6 years running, and I continue to do so. I was very bullish on Trump winning the election. One of my biggest regrets is not Trump was a 7-1 underdog. I could have bet Bitcoin on that. And I was on my YouTube channel. It was a huge, that was an easy bet that I should have made. I regret that one. And I think he's going to, for me, as far as the U.S. election goes, the question for me is Trump going to win the election with the greatest margin of victory for incumbent president ever? I'm as confident as ever that he will win. I'm not saying that that's a good thing or not. I'm just saying that that's what's going to happen. So the biggest thing with predictions is people have to really understand the person predicting, whether they have to separate whether it's an analytical prediction or whether that's something that they want to happen because they're somehow invested in it. And most people can't do that separation. It's like I tell people all throughout, I held Bitcoin all through the bear market. I was a hodler, but I kept calling lower and lower prices. That's because I am capable in my brain of separating what I want and what I think will happen. And I think the biggest problem with predictions is people aren't able to make that separation from what they want and what they think.
Davinci.
A lot of people appreciate my call to sell the top on Bitcoin, and they want to know when, the hodlers want to know when to sell the next top on Bitcoin. And does anybody want to hear when the next top on Bitcoin?
No.
Well, it's really easy to tell when the next top's going to be. I predict the next top's going to be when we have an ETF in the United States. When that gets listed on that day, you sell the snot of Bitcoin, because that will be the top.
Probably, Chris, you agree because you're the team, right?
Yes. So I agree on that. And you wanted to hear a price. If we say 350K for Bitcoin, that would equal up to the gold market cap, since this is 7 trillion. And it's like 70x of Bitcoin. And the reason behind that is, I think that Bitcoin has at least the scarcity advantages of gold. It's even better because 21 million is a given, and for gold you can mine it in the ocean or on the asteroids in the space. So it has at least that of Bitcoin, and you can move it cross border, and you have all the advantages we know, and you can also store data on the blockchain. So it's amazing, way better than gold. So at least 350K, I think that is a given, but it's no financial advice, obviously.
Unfortunately, at the end of this panel, we actually learned that people are here not to make quick money, because when you actually make prediction, everybody's at the back, chatting around.
Exactly.
So that's a beautiful thing we learned today. But I would like to thank all the amazing panelists for the discussion. And if you want to continue, have more questions, I'm sure everybody will be happy to talk to you afterwards. Thank you so much for coming and listening to us. Thank you.